I asked if I could be hoisted up on the mast, but it's like this flimsy little mast, because I thought maybe it'd make it harder for the police to get us off the boat. But then they said, do you want to glue your feet to the top of the boat?
The chance to catch up with 16-year-old activist Nathaniel Walcott, who last fall participated in an action with a group called Extinction Rebellion, where he helped block traffic in the middle of New York City's Times Square by physically supergluing his bare feet to a boat, again, in the middle of Times Square. We are currently on our way to go catch up with Nathaniel. So for Nathaniel, who, like I said, is 16, he's homeschooled, he lives in Brooklyn, he's said he's been aware of the climate crisis for a while and has just kind of, stood on the sidelines of what's going on, but obviously cared about it, up until the point where he saw a video of Roger Hallam, who is one of the co-founders of Extinction Rebellion in London. He saw a video of him speaking and was extremely captivated by what he had to say.
We kept seeing Extinction Rebellion related things on the news all over the summer, and we were curious. So towards the end of the summer, one night, my whole family, we sat down and we watched a video by Roger Hallam.
The whole crisis, this whole ecological climate crisis, it's not a thing. It's not a thing that you do. It's everything. It's everything there is. Everything that we love. That's the situation. And yeah, it's going to be hard, and life is hard, but you never know, it might just be the best thing you ever do.
As soon as we watched it, we have to get involved.
So Extinction Rebellion is one of the many climate activist groups focused on getting people's attention to the climate crisis and making sure that we see change immediately, because the crisis is ongoing and is only going to get worse with time unless drastic action is taken. And Extinction Rebellion is a unique group because they take that need for drastic action and then they apply it to the way they protest. So Extinction Rebellion, otherwise known as XR, is different because they focus on non-violent direct action, which basically means that they disrupt the normal, regular way business is conducted in the form of blocking traffic, shutting down bridges, doing these things called die-ins, just all these really, really outrageous kind of events so that people can focus on what's happening, ask questions about it, and then hopefully be rallied to join the cause.
You have to see a way forwards to act. If I'm just gonna feel strongly about something and go yell on the streets by myself, it's not gonna really accomplish something. So what Extinction Rebellion does is it gives people a way to make a difference, basically.
So when Nathaniel and his dad got invested in XR and first started going to their initial meetings, they signed up for being willing to be arrested in one of these actions. And it's also important to note that XR understands that not everybody has the ability to be arrested, but for those who would like to and those who do, they can. And XR will train them on exactly what's going to happen, how they should act, what it's going to be like, all of those things, but they definitely do not expect all of their members to just sign up to be arrested every day of the week. But Nathaniel and his dad decided that that was something they wanted to do. So after they signed up for that, they learned what the action itself was going to be like and learned that they would be gluing and attaching themselves to this boat.
We went way over time in our meeting and we were really busy, there's so many details. There was almost no time to feel anything. We were working the tiniest things out. Who was gonna go where, who was gonna unhitch the trailer, who was gonna hand out glue.
There were two main actions taking place that week. One was the boat blocking traffic in Times Square that Nathaniel eventually glued himself to, and the other was something called a die-in in Wall Street. So I actually had the opportunity to go to that other march, and it was a really incredible and emotional experience because the XR activists almost had to act like actors, where they are laying on the ground around the charging bull sculpture and just dying. They had fake blood all over them. Some were crying out, some were screaming. They had someone standing on top of the bull itself with a flag waving. Obviously, all of this stuff, you're not allowed to do that. You can't just like climb on top of this huge sculpture. And this is the type of nonviolent direct action that XR is known for, where they completely disrupt what's going on in Wall Street by having this whole spectacle and having people stop by, pass it, wonder what's going on, ask questions, and hopefully see the sense of urgency that they have.
We're not really up for marching around and asking.
We are Extinction Rebellion Youth US!
And we are declaring open rebellion against our corrupt leaders!
So the morning of the action, Nathaniel and his dad show up early to Bryant Park where they're meeting with the other activists, and there's a lot of tension and nervousness in the group. They're, getting all their supplies, they've got their handcuffs, they're trying to hide the handcuffs that they have from any lurking police officers that might see them because they're worried about, creating suspicion and possibly having a police officer preemptively arrest them. They have to figure out logistics like who's going to hold the keys to the handcuffs because it can't be on the right person, and making sure you have the glue that you need to attach yourself to the boat. So all of this is getting ready while the boat is on its way to Times Square. So as they're kind of getting ready, they eventually make their way over to Times Square to time it almost exactly to when the boat shows up in the intersection that it's going to block. And as soon as the boat gets there, all of the activists have to run into this intersection with oncoming traffic and everything else, detach the boat from its trailer, kind of move it over to where it's supposed to be exactly in that intersection, install the mast in the boat, and then start climbing on it and begin the process of physically attaching themselves to the boat and creating what they call a hard block of traffic.
It was just like a lot of adrenaline. I wasn't really nervous because we had rehearsed it, and whatever we could do, it was already done. I was really worried about getting it in time. So what ended up happening is I cuffed myself to the mast, and then I had the glue tubes in my hands that were attached to it, so I had to slide my shoes off and then reach one leg up at a time to my hands to squirt the glue. And then my dad was handing out glue around the boat, so he came by and traced another few bottles of glue around my feet to stick it down.
Eventually, as this action progresses, as the police figure out exactly how they're going to detach people who are super glued to a boat, Nathaniel and the people that he's with are arrested by New York City police.
It was a really weird sensation because everything had gone perfectly, absolutely perfectly, and there were people in a ring around the boat, sitting down, linking arms and chanting. There were people blocking the road, standing with orange fencing and stuff like that. And the cops had to drive through the traffic snow, and I don't think they were very happy about that. They had to get there. They were had never seen anything like it. They were really surprised.
Obviously, the point of all of this, of gluing yourself to a boat, of participating in a die-in and Wall Street and all of the other actions that XR has done across the world, it's all to get attention. And I think what a lot of people don't understand or might not understand is when they see stuff like that, they wonder, okay, well, what difference is it really making to block traffic and to inconvenience people that are going through Times Square and whatever else? But from Nathaniel's perspective, on the top of that boat, he said that most of the people that passed by stopped and were interested. Once the chanting started and people fully understood the messaging of this is a boat in the middle of Times Square because if the climate crisis continues, Manhattan could be underwater. Once they understood that, they stayed, and they wanted to watch the spectacle. They wanted to figure out why people were so passionate and dedicated to getting them to understand.
Although we didn't see anybody very pissed off or anything. They were just sitting there sort of pointing their heads out the window and like taking pictures with their phones. The boat was definitely, it was visually, it was really surreal. It was really surreal.
So in terms of how the police actually did the detaching, they ended up, Nathaniel said it took them about 10-15 minutes to get there. So just imagine 10-15 minutes of this lime green boat blocking traffic in New York City with no police really there. And then once they did get there, it took them about 2 hours to figure out how to get everybody off of the boat. They had to call in this special task force and have, everybody kind of put their heads together as to how they were going to resolve this issue. But Nathaniel said eventually, once they figured out how to do it, it was all pretty quick. So they ended up kind of soaking this, canvas-like material in acetone and sliding it under his feet, or for other adults who had stamped their hands onto the boat, sliding it under their hands, and that just completely dissolved the glue.
They had bandages. Soaked with acetone, and you can see it on the video. They just went like this, and it just slid right under my feet, both of them at once. And then they had the keys to our handcuffs. Yeah, I sort of was a little disappointed it was only 2 hours.
So after it was all said and done, Nathaniel said that 61 people were arrested that day in Times Square. There were, in addition to the 10 to 12 activists that were on top of the boat, there were people blocking traffic surrounding the boat, and all in all, it came out to 61 activists. And out of everyone, Nathaniel was the only one under 18, which meant that he had to go to a separate precinct from all of those other people that he had just gone through this incredible experience with and was really putting up a fight with. And so it was interesting to hear Nathaniel talk about the emotion of that extreme high of being with people that are fully dedicated to the cause that you care about one moment and fighting for it in public, and then being completely isolated the next.
It's a really sudden and sort of an extreme difference in mood, going from this protest till you're just riding in a police car and sitting in a room in a police precinct, and you're handcuffed to a bench and you're just not talking, and you're staring at the walls. It seems like a cliche, but it literally felt, it was a really long time, no water, no food, and you're just sort of sitting there. It's you understand what you're doing, but it doesn't really sink in until you're going through it afterwards. How strange it is. It's really just strange, the feeling, because you're just so focused on getting it right and doing what you need to do in the moment. And then afterwards you realize, I'm so crazy, what did I just do?
There's a lot, I think, that goes into the mindset of getting arrested for protesting, or for protesting in a certain way. But I think for the most part, what Extinction Rebellion has tried to embody is the fact that if you are able to get arrested, if you have, the resources available to you, if you feel safe doing it, it demonstrates the extreme nature of the crisis at hand. Because you only have so many arrests for civil disobedience that you're able to really get under your belt before you face more extreme consequences, like spending multiple nights in jail, having a court date. It kind of builds upon itself. So as you get arrested each time, it's almost like a marker of you're willing to sacrifice something for the cause that you are demonstrating for. And for Nathaniel at age 16, he is fully ready to dive into a life of that for whatever it takes to combat the climate crisis, and definitely wants to get arrested again.
It's a situation that has forced our hand, which is sort of I think that's the same for a lot of people, that when they learn about the reality of what is going on, they feel like they can't be doing anything else, it's just so urgent. And I think what changed is that if it was a smaller issue, no matter how fun it is to get arrested or purposeful, it's still not something it's really a serious thing, and it's something that you don't do lightly. Everything that Extinction Rebellion does is for a reason, and there's a reason why it's a boat, and it's colorful, and it's serious, and we're not like goofing around. But yeah, definitely a sense of community makes a difference. You don't really want to be alone in doing things like that. It just makes it so much better to be with other people.
There are tons of ways to participate in activism and in civil disobedience, and Nathaniel's story is just one of many, especially when it comes to all of the groups fighting climate change and asking for a response to the climate crisis. And no matter what age you are, you can be an activist. And that's something that I have learned over and over again over the last couple of months. And it's something that we're going to continue to cover. So check back for more on our site, on our social platforms, and for more videos on this topic.